Let's go!
For anyone that's curious, it's finally happened. We've been waiting, and waiting, and waiting, and it's finally happened. We have a date! So, June 4th at 1 o'clock Pacific. Yes, it's not 8 a.m. in the morning.
Yes.
I will be revealed. I am the PlayStation 5. Everything will be revealed. That's what's going on. Apparently, I am the #1 PlayStation 5 information provider and industry insider, according to many websites. And I am here to tell you that the PlayStation 5, which is myself, will play video games. I will have a DVD player. There might be a controller, and there have been games in the works for myself for quite a long time. If anyone doesn't know what happened on Twitter, some random Twitter account that was like PS5 news with, you know, some followers, and a link to like their Patreon and shit. I was like, whoa, what are you Patreonizing? Took a quote from my stream that games are in development for the PlayStation, that the PlayStation has been making games for like years. And I had to respond with yes. I'm like, and I responded to their exciting breaking news on Twitter with my extremely serious reply. And I'm like, absolutely. The PlayStation has been making games since the 90s. Ready for my next scoop. Let me go donate to your Patreon. I thought it was funny, to say the least. Scoop! So, it's happening, right? PlayStation 5 is gonna get revealed, and it feels like, for some reason, it already feels like they're gonna handle this. I think what Microsoft is distributing for next gen might be a better cost-effective thingamajig, right? Like what they're doing to set up for people might seem like Microsoft is setting up for a better deal because, dude, Microsoft has to catch up. These guys screwed up really bad. Don Matrix, he screwed the pooch when it came to the Xbox One. I mean, granted, he was probably eventually down a pipeline that got Killer Instinct made, so I have to give him credit. Before he went to Zynga and dumped the Xbox like it was a bad habit. But all things considered, they have a lot to make up for, and Microsoft is going to be attempting to do that, right? They're gonna have a shit ton of games, they're gonna have a whole bunch of studios making those games, they're gonna launch with the Halo, yada yada yada. So that's cool. But I feel the way that they're approaching, and this could be also absolutely an issue with the pandemic, the way that Microsoft has been approaching its reveals and what the next box is going to be, the Series X, and what it's capable of has been this slow drip of stuff, and it's been a little weird because a lot of us were expecting things, and then we clearly got something different, right? The whole gameplay reveal, the eventual reveal of like what the system looks like, and you just get like, okay, we see what the system looks like, but then there's just like stats that go with it. There hasn't been, we've essentially been waiting for like this E3 thing, and I feel like instead of them, it would have been nice if they just showed the thing off and then just waited to like a big event to show you a whole bunch of stuff. But right now it feels like a lot of companies are trying to space out their announcements because of things like E3 not really happening, right? Usually all these companies build up to E3 and then there's big reveals and then they all compete with each other, who's got the better announcements, yada yada yada. And now it's a bit different. However, it sort of feels like PlayStation is doing more of an E3 thing, right? It feels like this thing is sort of like, hey, it begins. This event is supposed to be an hour long, 60 minutes of apparently games, right? And that's the thing that's sort of being talked about in terms of all of this stuff. Apparently it's games and not just like, we're gonna talk about how fast the new SSD is for about like 40 minutes. Oh, they already did that, right? They already had their GDC presentation where they do nothing but talk about how much the audio is gonna tickle your brain, how fast the SSD is, how much different the RAM and the GPU. They already sort of had their reveal of that stuff back at their GDC talk. They're still gonna mention all that shit, but my hope is that this thing is filled to the brim of just a whole bunch of just show us games, right? Just show us games running on this system. And it would be nice to see the system. We've already seen the controller, we've seen the logo, right? They're drip feeding the same way as Microsoft. For me, the reason I'm so much more excited about PlayStation, and the reason I was so much more excited about Microsoft than I was PlayStation back in 2013, 2014 is games. Is absolutely games. The thing that got me to like Xbox over PlayStation 4 at the start was because it had a Panzer Dragoon game and friggin' Killer Instinct. And at the start of the PlayStation 4's life cycle, you pretty much got Killzone and Knack, and there wasn't much else. There was very little else to be super happy about when it came to the PlayStation 4's launch. And that might actually be a big difference here. So that's why now, PlayStation 4 is like, honestly, one of the greatest systems of all time, in my opinion, in terms of its like exclusives. So many ridiculously good exclusives, not just when it comes to fighting games, but some of my favorite games of all time. That's right, Infamous Second Son, I forgot that game existed. Now, there are follow-ups, if not sequels, if not these companies that have made these beloved games that came out since 2013 to 2020 now, that I am super excited about where they could be going with in the future. Super excited. Like, what could it possibly be? I'm way more excited for what Sony is up to with the next console generation than I am Microsoft. But I do feel that Microsoft is going to offer more bang for the buck. But I think it's a good opportunity to actually talk about some of those predictions, because I think, yeah, dude, if KI catches me off guard once again, then Microsoft wins. You know, all you have to do is put out a Killer Instinct trailer for something new in KI, and you're going to win. All signs, like, I'm gonna shake the magic 8-ball, all signs lead to that not happening. But if I would say my predictions for what's gonna be shown at this thing, I think we're gonna see the system, right? I think the system is going to be shown. We're also gonna see a whole bunch of games. We'll talk about which games might be shown. The price. I don't know if they're gonna mention price yet. I don't know. A lot of people are saying Elden Ring, and I would love to see more of Elden Ring, right? These are the guys with the greatest level design in the history of video games right now. But I do not think that Elden Ring is going to be shown at Sony, simply because they took the opportunity at Microsoft's press conference before to show off Elden Ring. So theoretically, the event that's going to be happening in, what is it, June or July for the Xbox, for the Series X, I think that's where we're going to see Elden Ring for the first time, actually running on hardware, yada, yada, yada. So no Elden Ring on this event. I don't think you're seeing Elden Ring on June 4th. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of some other things that we've been hearing about for a long time, and things that we're expecting to happen. Yes, the very long rumored Demon's Souls remake by Bluepoint, I think, is a pretty high likelihood. And it's already been rumored that they're working on a game that is a PlayStation exclusive, because the last game they worked on was a PlayStation exclusive, and they knocked it out of the park. Absolutely knocked it out of the park with Shadow of the Colossus. So I think there's a really good chance that we might be seeing a Demon's Souls remake, a full-scale, big-ass remake in the same vein as Shadow of the Colossus, for PlayStation 5 launch. I think that's a very good idea. The Cyberpunk trailer, yeah, I think these things are like sort of expected, you know? Like, you can sort of expect that those things are going to happen, right? There might be something new with Guerrilla's working on Horizon. Maybe there might be like a new Horizon trailer. Am I super excited about that? Not really, but you could get me to try it just as much as I tried the first Horizon. I enjoyed my day with it, but I'm like, this game's just not for me. I think the other big company that I'm expecting something to happen, and yeah, y'all mentioned it right now, is Capcom. I think Capcom is going to have something at the PlayStation event. Capcom has not had any direct allegiance lately in terms of the past couple E3s, because they showed off Devil May Cry 5 at Xbox a couple years ago. They've showed off Resident Evil games and Monster Hunter games in accordance with PlayStation. So I personally feel something from Capcom is going to be shown that is going to be next-gen-y, right? We're not going to get something that's like, hey, Mega Man X9. I don't think Mega Man X9 is going to be a big, high-budget game. I think you're going to see Mega Man X9 in the same vein that you see, like, the Mega Man 11 game, where it came out and sold relatively well and was obviously not a AAA game. I think Mega Man X9 is in the brew house. You know, it's being cooked on. I have a very good feeling about that. However, I don't think that's what you show off on your PlayStation 5 event. I think a very good chance is that there's another Resident Evil game they're going to show here. And there's already been rumors about the next Resident Evil game, about it being crazy and different, and Resident Evil Village, or if that's RE8, there's rumors about that. I can't confirm any of that shit, but there's been some stuff. Yeah, and there was actually Resident Evil's website hinting that something was going to be revealed on June 10th. So potentially, at the PlayStation 5 event, we might get an announcement of some kind for Resident Evil 8 with like a small teaser or like a very brief trailer, and then like a giant gameplay or a larger gameplay scale reveal for RE8, potentially a few days later on June 10th. I see that being a very, very, very high possibility. Marvel vs. Capcom 4, you poor bastards. You guys haven't been through the trenches like I have to think that Marvel 4 is happening. I'm gonna tell you the likelihood of Marvel vs. Capcom 4 happening, in case you need to be reminded about Marvel vs. Capcom showing up on the PlayStation 5. It's 1 in 16,405,000. And the odds have not changed. RE4 is way far out. That game is not anywhere close, right? Don't worry about Resident Evil 4 remake until like 2022, 2023 or some shit. You don't need to worry about that. I don't think there's anything else happening from Capcom at this event. I really don't. But, yeah, and somebody else just mentioned the other game that I'm pretty excited about because of its nature, and that's Godfall. Godfall seems like it's going to be pretty cool from the very little bit we've seen, and there's only been small gameplay snippets of it. But the way the gear looks, the art direction of the game, right, the sort of way that it's going to be handled, it sounds very Phantasy Star Online-like. Like PSO mixed with Monster Hunter. I'm okay with that. The only gameplay stuff we've really seen is like a year old, they said. So, and that was like some leaked footage. I think Godfall, I love the way the gear looks in that game. And apparently from what they're describing action-wise, it sounds super sick. So, I'm pretty excited about that. The new season of Street Fighter V, I don't think you're getting anything Street Fighter V announcement for the PlayStation 5. I mean, I think there might be an announcement that a lot of your PlayStation 4 games will work on the PS5. I think that's a very high likelihood. I don't think all PlayStation 4 games are going to work on the PS5. But do you think this is the opportunity where Sony makes an announcement about Street Fighter V DLC? Hell no. Absolutely not. Do you think this is the opportunity for them to talk about Street Fighter 6? No. No, it's not. In no way would you just announce Street Fighter V DLC and then announce Street Fighter 6 a few days later. That's asinine in terms of marketing. That makes absolutely zero sense. Absolutely not. Street Fighter 6, which we all know is going to happen eventually, but whenever it does exist, whenever it does get announced, we are far away from it. With the announcement from Street Fighter V, we are so much further away from it now than we were before that Street Fighter V announcement, because it seemed like Street Fighter 6 was possibly going to be around the launch of the PS5, like potentially. Maybe this would have been the moment. They would have done it here, and then 7-8 months later, Street Fighter 6 launches, February 2021. That makes a lot of sense, because that's when all of Capcom's fighting games generally launch. However, they just announced a full season of Street Fighter V, 5 more characters. That means that's gonna carry that game all the way into next year. Based on the entire history of the way Capcom sells their fighting games, that's not happening. I'm gonna probably put down money that Street Fighter 6 isn't coming out until like 2023. It's probably 2022, likely 2022, but considering the track record with Capcom, I don't really trust Street Fighter 6 until 2023. That shit is far away, dude. You might be playing Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 before you play the next Street Fighter. I'm sorry, Street Fighter 6 if I said 5. I think that stuff is very far. All things considered, don't bet on that. I think something we can possibly bet on, and somebody said it. Somebody was right there and they said it. I think KOF 15. I think King of Fighters 15 could potentially be here. I think this could be a chance for KOF 15 to be shown. And I'm not talking about everything that could possibly show up. I'm saying things that come to mind. I'm saying things that I'm excited for. And I think there is a good chance that KOF 15 could be shown here, because all things considered, Sam Show's a good looking game. Sam Show did a good job at being visually splendorful. There's a big difference between what happened with KOF 14, you know? Yeah, I'll be gladly waiting for anything like that. God of War sequel, I think we might get a teaser towards that stuff, but I don't know, man. There's also, here's the thing. There's also another event happening in Japan. It's called like New Game Plus or something of the like. that's happening in about 1 month. I think it's like June 23rd, and it's all like Japanese developers. It's like a Japanese E3 Nintendo Direct sort of thing, and they're having that New Game NGPX or whatever the heck it is, New Game Plus Expo. That's happening in less than a month. So there's going to be even more big Japanese titles that are going to be revealed from a variety of companies, including Arc System Works. So more Guilty Gear stuff is going to be shown there. Hopefully we'll see the one samurai dude we saw when the game was first revealed. But either way, I think this thing is going to be about game announcements, right? I think that's the whole deal, is that we're going to be filled with game announcements. But what do I want? Like, I think the thing that I want the most, I want to hear in the same vein that Microsoft just talked about how our old games, that shit's gonna be running at 4K, that shit's gonna be running at 120 hertz. They specifically had a whole bunch of announcements talking about how the Xbox Series X is going to take a lot of older games and amplify the holy shit out of them from the Xbox One. And that's the kind of stuff that I want to hear when it comes to PlayStation 4 games, especially PlayStation 4 exclusives. And for anyone that's like, oh, but wasn't Bloodborne rumored for PC? That was complete horseshit. That was coming from a website that literally made that shit up, that came from a completely untrusted source to get clicks. And unfortunately, you guys bought it. But I think the chance that Bloodborne running at extremely high frame rates, at actually high quality resolution, is a likelihood. I think there's a very good chance, because it's clear that Sony didn't forget about Bloodborne. Friggin' GameStop is about to have exclusive Bloodborne pops that are going to be coming to stores with a variety of other PlayStation branded things. And it's clear they never forgot about Bloodborne, right? It's not one of those things like, oh, it happened, it existed, that was neat, see you later. No, like, Bloodborne is still around the collective consciousness at Sony. And that's good, because I very much would be happy with Bloodborne remastered in some way. Or show us PlayStation 5 can take these PlayStation 4 exclusive games and up-res them and make them look better. I want to play Spider-Man at high frame rate and high resolution. I want to play Bloodborne at high frame rate and high resolution. I want to play God of War again at high frame rate, high resolution. I want that shit, dude. It's one thing that you can, if you want to get me on board with this system right off the bat, give me the ability to take these old PlayStation, these PS4 exclusive games and bring them back to us and make them look fucking amazing. Because those games already look good. I hate to break it to you, but for the most part, all those games I just mentioned, and even Horizon, right, and that's coming to PC, all those games look next gen. They do. They all have next-gen visuals. They all have visuals that in the light of 2020 still holds a candle. But what they're lacking is frame rate and a bit higher resolution. Those games look great still. So all things considered, I'm probably more excited for some of that stuff, but that's where I think we're going. Right? That's where I think a lot of this is going to be. But even they've announced that this isn't going to be everything. This PlayStation 5 event on June 4th, which I absolutely will be live streaming, and I'll be here with friggin' bells on. We've been talking about this shit for years, and I think that about a year ago, I was talking about what next gen can do for fighting games, and we had a great conversation yesterday about what this means for the future of fighting games. And it's actually very good, right? This isn't just like rollback netcode, and the rollback netcode has been an option that devs can put into fighting games for years. They just chose not to. So now we're actually, right? That's changing, which is good. That's like an awareness thing that thanks to you and everybody, that has actually changed. Everyone's like, how do these SSDs and how does all this extra processing power improve fighting games when it comes to things that aren't just visuals? And I'll tell you what, it does have an impact, but it doesn't have a direct impact on the gameplay aspect, right? Coming up with the cool and captivating characters and good visuals is stuff that you could have done in this generation, right? That's not it. However, the prevailing issue of fighting games that has happened throughout this generation that everyone will attest to is the fact that it takes forever to load games and it takes forever to find matches and shit. If there's less time not playing the fighting game and more time just playing the fighting game, load times and matchmaking are a huge improvement that can happen with the next generation of fighting games. And if it's something that has been a absolute plague this generation, is that, my God, dude, we do not spend enough time fighting, and we spend way too much time looking for each other. And that's not just gonna come down to hardware. Yes, loading times being faster is going to be nice for fighting games. That also calls developers to change the gameplay flow, right? Like the flow of how you select the match, where you go to the matchmaking process, you win or lose the match, how you get into the next game. That's actually going to be up to devs to fix that problem, because some games do it fast and some games do it horribly slow. Incredibly slow. So, the future of gaming is going to show up on June 4th. I can't help but be excited, and I can't help but say I have a lot of expectations, right? I got a lot of expectations, and I'm going to be disappointed most likely. And I'm ready for that disappointment. Expectations are through the roof.